What transpired in Melbourne during the Australian Open semi-final between Carlos Alcaraz and Alexander Zverev stands as one of the most gripping, physically punishing, and emotionally draining contests the tournament has ever witnessed. This was far more than a simple semi-final. It was a 5-hour odyssey of sheer endurance, unwavering belief, and raw survival that drove both competitors to the very edge of their physical and mental capacities. In the gripping conclusion, it was Carlos Alcaraz who ultimately emerged triumphant, clinching the decisive fifth set 7-5 and securing his place in his very first Australian Open final. From the very first point, it was abundantly clear that this encounter was destined to be an unforgettable classic. Alcaraz launched into the match with an air of supreme confidence and authority, unleashing the brand of high-intensity tennis that has propelled him to the world #1 ranking. His forehand was a devastating weapon, his footwork was flawless, and his masterful ability to alter the pace and angle of his shots perpetually kept his opponent guessing. The formidable Spaniard played with controlled aggression, consistently taking up positions inside the baseline to compress the court and rob the German of precious reaction time whenever the opportunity arose. On the other side of the net, Zverev commenced the match with a solid, yet distinctly more cautious strategy. While his serve was a potent weapon, he frequently found himself pushed onto the defensive during the more prolonged exchanges. Alcaraz's strategic variety, expertly combining heavy topspin drives with deft drop shots and sudden explosive acceleration, succeeded in shattering Zverev's rhythm early in the contest. The inaugural set was a tense and physically demanding battle, but it was Alcaraz who proved superior in handling the most critical moments. He managed to elevate his game when it mattered most, ultimately taking the set and establishing the dramatic tone for the epic that was to follow. In the second set, Alcaraz appeared even more settled and in command. He captured an early break of serve, sustained a relentless barrage of pressure, and demonstrated an astounding level of composure under duress. When he surged ahead by 2-0, it began to feel as though the match was inexorably slipping from Zverev's grasp, but the German powerhouse never lost faith. As the third set got underway, the entire dynamic of the match began to gradually but noticeably pivot. Alcaraz was still dictating play with aggression, but faint changes started to become apparent. He was taking considerably more time between points. His movement, while still exceptional, had lost a fraction of its explosive power. Then came the defining moment that would alter the course of the match. Carlos Alcaraz began to suffer from debilitating cramps. At first, he attempted to battle through it discreetly. He used the changeovers to stretch his seizing muscles, tried to end points quickly when he could, and depended more on his incredible shot-making ability rather than his usual court coverage. However, as the set progressed, the cramping grew far more severe. His legs began to fail him, and his capacity to defend and counterattack normally one of his most formidable assets was visibly and severely hampered. Zverev immediately detected this window of opportunity. What ensued was one of the most brilliant and disciplined stretches of tennis of Zverev's entire career. He adjusted his tactical approach with perfection, purposefully extending the rallies, adding more depth to his shots, and forcing a clearly suffering Alcaraz to move even when it was visibly agonizing. Zverev exhibited remarkable patience. He did not rush or try to force the issue. He remained disciplined and methodical, trusting that the brutal physical toll would eventually turn the tide decisively in his favor. The third set deservedly went to Zverev, and in that moment, the match's momentum had completely reversed. By the start of the fourth set, Alcaraz was in obvious physical trouble. The cramps intensified, restricting his movement to such a degree that even walking between points looked like a painful ordeal, and yet despite the agony, he absolutely refused to surrender. He continued to fight for every single ball, running on pure instinct, exquisite timing, and an indomitable will to stay in the contest. Zverev conversely was playing with an ever-increasing sense of assurance. His serve grew more dependable under extreme pressure. His backhand was like a brick wall, and his forehand started finding the corners of the court with pinpoint accuracy at crucial junctures. This was Zverev performing at his absolute peak, calm, tactically astute, and mentally unbreakable. As the fourth set slipped away from Alcaraz, the contest was propelled into a fifth and final set, sending both warriors into uncharted waters. By this stage, the match had already surpassed the 5-hour mark, solidifying its place as one of the longest and most demanding clashes ever contested at the Australian Open. Every rally felt heavier, imbued with monumental significance. Every single point carried an enormous psychological weight. The physical and mental demands were simply off the charts. Alcaraz was now fueled by nothing but sheer willpower. His movement was profoundly compromised, but his competitive spirit raged on undiminished. He gambled on shortening points, took calculated risks, and attempted to finish rallies early knowing his body could no longer withstand lengthy battles. Zverev persistently applied pressure, sensing that the match was his for the taking. He served with authority, maintained his aggressive stance, and relentlessly pushed Alcaraz to the very precipice of defeat. For extended periods of the fifth set, it truly seemed that Zverev was on the verge of completing one of the most incredible comebacks of his professional career. But the greatest champions find another gear when everything appears to be lost. In the most decisive moments of that final set, Alcaraz displayed astonishing courage and mental fortitude. Despite the crippling cramps, despite the visible pain, he somehow discovered a way to elevate his game to a higher level. He played audacious, fearless tennis, stepping into his shots, relying on his instincts, and refusing to allow the match to slip through his fingers. At 5 games apiece with both players utterly exhausted, Alcaraz produced his most spectacular tennis of the entire set. He launched an all-out assault on Zverev's serve, played with incredible aggression on his returns, and finally secured the pivotal break of serve. The entire stadium could feel the gravity of the moment. This was the decisive turning point. Serving for the match at 6-5, Alcaraz summoned his last reserves of strength. Every single one of his movements appeared painful, yet his focus remained unbreakable. He landed massive first serves, hammered bold forehands, and ultimately sealed the victory 7-5 in the fifth set. As the final point was won, Alcaraz collapsed onto the court, completely overwhelmed by a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and pure emotion. This was not merely a victory, it was a powerful statement. Carlos Alcaraz had survived one of the most arduous and testing matches of his still young career. He had overcome severe physical adversity, withstood one of the finest performances Alexander Zverev has ever produced, and demonstrated once again precisely why he is the world's #1 player. For Alcaraz, this victory signifies more than just securing a place in the final. It represents his inaugural trip to the Australian Open final, completing another historic milestone in an already storied career. He has now astonishingly reached the final of every single Grand Slam tournament, and he accomplished this latest feat in the most dramatic fashion conceivable. As for Alexander Zverev, this was an agonizingly heartbreaking loss, but it also served as a stunning reminder of his incredible capabilities. He played one of the most exceptional matches of his life, displayed outstanding mental resilience, and pushed the world's top player to the absolute limit. Despite the ultimate defeat, his phenomenal performance reaffirmed that he remains a major force and a serious contender on the sport's grandest stages. This semifinal will be remembered and talked about for many years, not just for its extraordinary length, but for its breathtaking intensity, its heart-stopping drama, and the incredible fortitude shown by both of these elite players. A 5-hour epic, a true battle against the body's limits, a nail-biting fifth-set finish, and a young champion who simply refused to be beaten. Carlos Alcaraz is heading to his first Australian Open final, and he earned it in the most challenging way possible. Do you believe Alcaraz has what it takes to win the Australian Open title? Let us know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed this analysis, please subscribe for more content. We will see you again tomorrow.